Well, here we are, folks, for another truth proof live stream. So, as you all know, Thursday evening, 7 o'clock, here in the UK, it's the truth proof live stream. So, hope you've all had a good week. Last week, we've had a busy week. I know I've had a busy week filming with Paul and doing lots of stuff on the Wolflands film, and which Paul and me will tell you a little bit more later on. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping here, folks, and let's see who's in the chat. And already there's lots of you in the chats, so let's go through some names. I've got to welcome Lisa Odd, Blue Shift, Ralph Winter, Jane Louise Bowery, Alison Buttle, Rick Allen, nickname Tino, and Peter Masters. And got to thank you all for joining us tonight. So whether in the UK or around the world, it's a great pleasure to have you on board. As you know, the only guest Paul has got tonight is the producer of the show, of the Truth Proof live streams, and that's me, Les Drake. So we'll get Paul on, and we'll see if we can kick off the show in a good with a good start. All right then, Paul, how's it going?
All good, Les. Yeah, and obviously, as you said, no guest tonight, unless you class yourself as one, Les, and which is all good for me. Next week, fingers crossed, we'll be talking to John Hanson. And I don't know if anybody in the chat knows John, but I'm sure a lot of ufologists will be aware that he's the guy that produces the Haunted Skies books and has done a lot of work with Colonel Charles Holt of Rendlesham Forest fame. And Colonel Holt is in the pipeline to come on here. So it might just be an hour. Fingers crossed it might run to 2 hours, but it'd be nice to get him on and he can retell the Rendlesham Forest story. There's nothing better than having the first-hand witness, is there? Let's face it.
No, that'll be...
Yeah, like you said, Les, it's been an eventful week and we spent a good bit of time in the forest with the help of Chris Wright. We can't forget Chris, sort of filming various scenes and trying to just put more inserts and pieces together. And yeah, it's coming along good, isn't it? That's all we can say.
Yeah, well, and I suppose you could say the weather's been kind to us at this time of year, so you know we need to get as much done as we can on getting to an end point, don't we, Paul, on this one?
It is, and it's sorry to bore people because I know people are asking when we're going to have it finished, but it is quite literally a monster. We have. It'd be dead easy to sit a witness down and just do an interview over a table. You know, one to the other and get the story and then jump to another witness and jump to another, like on same format that a lot of these things are done on. And I'm not saying this is going to be some kind of BAFTA award winning film, but for the budget that me and Les have got, which is very little, I think we've come quite a long way with it, and I think people will be surprised. It will be worth the wait, and we've already gone into detail about what some witness accounts, and there's more to come. I mean, you could almost make plans for another one because there's more people stepped forward. The places in the forests up around Broxer and Langdale and Harwoodale, there's now people, mountain bikers, giving Chris Wright, let me correct myself, I don't want to take full credit for this, giving Chris Wright accounts of similar things that's been seen in the forest. We've got one mountain biker's account, but it's snowballed. There's more, but we can't fit them into Wolflands. So tonight, people, and somebody's just said, Paul, you're too quiet, so I'll just try and raise my voice. I do have a big mouth, everybody knows that.
Yes. So I've raised the volume at this end, Paul, a little bit. I might be able to get you a little bit nearer. Just hang on, folks. We'll see where we're going with this one.
A little bit nearer. Is that better?
Right, just have a go now, Paul.
How are we doing, everybody? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's
superb. Yeah, so tonight, please, at the risk of not shouting too much, give us some questions, because as I say, that's what's going to sort of feed the show. And I noticed that Peter Masters is in, and I've got Peter to thank. He's carved me a brilliant stick with a wolf's head on it, which he gave me earlier in the week. So thank you, Peter. You know, and Peter's a guy that me and Les are going to be doing some filming with this coming year, weather permitting, once again, because he's a bit of an electronics whiz, and he's going to help us with these frequencies and strange signals that have been picked up along the cliff tops and around eastern North Yorkshire. And there's a bit of equipment already been invested in from Peter mainly. So yeah, we'll be trying that. So if you have any questions, Peter, or you want to put out there, let's hear it. So any questions for Les and myself, just keep them coming.
Yeah, and at this point, Paul, I think if we just recap a little bit on from last week's show, where we had Preston Dennett, and he was a fantastic guest, and I know a lot of you have asked him if we could get him back on, and he assured us, yeah, he'd have no problem coming back on. So that's a plus point for Truth Proof. But one of there weren't many questions for you in that one, Paul, but one I picked up from I Film UFOs, and it was an observation, not so much as a question. So it's past few fishing trips. I got it right this time. Past few fishing trips. You can't believe what I said earlier, folks. I've experienced tree knocks and breaks for the first time. So I don't really want to mess with a big fella. I'm fine with just orbs out there on my own. So yeah, so he's had a crossover between hearing these knocks and breaks, which is quite interesting, Paul, isn't it? Because that's what we're sort of like looking into at the moment.
It is, and the tree knocks. It's a strange one, because obviously a lot of times people are hearing things like that, but then you've got, is it two trees in canopy and knocking together with wind, or did I imagine it? Because there's nothing else to see, it's just a sound. But I remember I went to Staxton Wold, must be 5 or 6 years ago, and I don't know, I think it was 3 tree knocks, very, very close to me. And I stopped, I've got a little dog with me, we sat down on a log, poured a cup of coffee, put an Olympus recorder on. It weren't windy, yeah, they were there. It was as though somebody got a 3-pound lump hammer and hit the tree. Really strange. Right. So I don't know what, I think we all know, anybody who's familiar with terrain of Flixton and Staxton, and if we're talking about something like a Bigfoot, it couldn't support something like that. Do you know what I mean? You can play with plausibility of it in America, or even in the, I don't know, North Yorkshire forests. I personally don't believe it, to be honest with you, even though we're doing wolflands. I believe there's something there, like I've said before, where I don't think it's in the form of a living, breathing, flesh and blood creature, not all of the time. So yeah, I've heard the tree knocks, and I don't know what to say to you when you've heard them, and whether do you sit and observe? Do you throw the mind out there and ask questions? Because a lot of people talk about communication through the mind with these things. Or are you inviting something that you'd rather not invite? It's a difficult one, Les, isn't it,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when I listen to or watch these American Bigfoot programs, I mean, this is what they're mainly saying, that it's a communication experience, between, because you're talking miles and miles, probably, 100 miles of forest and more.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So it's, I don't know, it's sort of kind of reminiscent in my mind of like the native Red Indians lighting fires. You know what I mean? The smoke and
So you're about the audible sounds. Is some kind of communication?
Yeah. So the audible sounds kind of communicating.
Yeah, well, that's an high probability. Just out of interest, anybody who can guess the fishing trips. Anybody who can guess what Les said before we started live stream, I'll send first copy of Truth Proof. I'll send a Truth Proof one to them. If they can put it in chat and they can guess what Les
first one.
Said. Yeah. I don't think. Sorry, first person. No,
yeah,
pick it up. Yeah, I'll see it when I'll know. I'm looking at the chat.
Yeah, Deborah's excluded. No, and you just reminded me there, and thanks Deborah for coming in tonight on the moderating. Done a good job as always, and I'm sure you'll do a good job tonight. So let's have a look then. We'll try and find some questions in.
Well, I've just seen one, and Rick Allen's asked, has Paul found a crossover phenomena? And now it's just scrolled up between whilst doing Wolflands, and when he says a crossover phenomena, Rick, elaborate a little bit. Do you mean leaking into UFO sightings and like multi-phenomena? if that's what you mean, I do think there's definitely a link between all of the unexplained phenomena, the full spectrum of it. Even if they're not connected, there's something within the fabric of the land, should we say, that's enabling these things to happen. I mean, eastern North Yorkshire, the coastline, Flamborough, Bempton, Speeton and Buckton are a prime example where a lot of these things seem to be seen, a lot of sky phenomena, you know, land-based cryptid type phenomena that can't possibly be resident in these areas. Big cat phenomena, you know, I'm not saying that can't be resident. I don't know, but there's enough people seeing them. But what I find interesting, just jumping through to the cats for a moment, is the fact that it's the concentrated sightings that occur for 1 or 2 weeks, and then they just drop off the map. And I've said it before, if they're transient and they're moving to a different area, why aren't we getting it in a different area? If they've moved 20 miles, why aren't we seeing newspapers reporting cat sightings 20 miles away? Yet we're getting them in the same places. We've got this little nondescript lane between Bempton and Flamborough, Short Lane, and the newspaper archives highlight it over decades. Black cats seen on Short Lane, crossing the road. There's nothing. There's fields either side of it and the hawthorn edge, just intermittent in places. And I sound like a broken record, but why is this area renowned for black cat sightings? I mean, it probably, to majority of people living in area, it's not renowned for black cat sightings because they're not really picking up on it. It's only when you start going through archives and you look and you see 2006 cat sightings, 2020, 2021, big black cat sightings, Short Lane, 2018, and it's there. They're all there. And just when you put them together, you realise this kind of significance of it. But it's jumping to Rick's question. I don't know why. I haven't got a clue. Maybe Rick does, because I know that he's got a lot of opinions on this, and that's not being sarcastic to you, Rick, because I think we've exchanged a lot of emails over the years, and I don't know. I really don't know why all these things manifest. I don't know whether it's a product of the land and some kind of thin area, and I'm reluctant to say interdimensional because I haven't got a clue what it is, but I don't know whether it's some thin area in the fabric of our sphere of existence that overlaps something else, allowing these things to come through, or it could be a multitude of reasons that I'm not aware of. All I know is it's happening. I think that's all we can do, unless you're going to be an expert and say I know what's happening, and I've just no time for them people, because invariably they don't. If they did, they'd be in papers and they'd be in books and people would be crediting them with it, but nobody's doing that, are they? All we're doing is speculating constantly. Tim Brennan, Paul, what is the I'm sorry, Deborah, if you're putting these questions to Les, but I'm just reading a few as they're coming to me. What is the strangest I can't read half of that. I apologise. One sec. The strangest Cliff Lane encounter you've come across? Probably Peter's. A guy who I wrote about in Truth Proof 2, or one of the strangest. I'm glad you've said that, because once again, an area of high strangeness. Cliff Lane, nondescript lane, 3/4 of a mile long, front village. It's a bird sanctuary. Passing places for cars in odd places. Farmland to the right, farmland to the left, nothing. And midpoint on the lane, there's a lane called, locals call it Blakey, and it's Blake How Lane. So in Yorkshire dialect, it means black lane, Blake, as in black, something that's Blake. So it's Black Lane. So it's got, and there's Blake How, which is a burial mound on just off the lane. So we've got this burial mound that's known as the Black Burial Mound. So you've got dark connotations to it. But this particular day, and someone tells me it was 2014 that Peter and his wife, Pete's probably be listening to this, and he's walking up the lane, bright summer's day, broad Yorkshire fella, spade's a spade, and he says it were cracking flags. I don't know if people have heard that saying, but he said, I've got shorts on, wife, what's saying, we've got short sleeve shirts on, it a red hot day. And we're walking down Blake How Lane, which is just off to the right of Cliff Lane. You'll find it on some old maps. just on Google or anywhere. It says, we're walking, there's nobody around, it's a brilliantly hot day. It says, and we just sort of looked in front of us because we were talking, and there's a guy in front of us, I don't know, 40, 50 yards in front, in a Crombie type coat, full black coat, long, fedora hat, and he's just walking in front of him. So Pete's wife said, have you seen him? And he says, well, yeah, we're looking at him, and they're just sort of gobsmacked, not frightened, not thinking there's a paranormal happened here. They just can't believe what they're looking at because it's so hot. And this guy's got like a long black coat on and a fedora hat, and he carries on walking, and they're intrigued. They're not trying to catch him up. They're keeping the same distance. There's a slight mound, slight rise on lane, and he goes over the top of it. And as they get to peak, he's gone. Now they can see straight down to cliffs. So there's nothing. There's just fields. Well, let's just say they were barley in one and they were rapeseed in other. The yellow rapeseed plant. That's it. Nothing. So they're panicking then, and his wife makes him go up and down the lane. He says they must have spent 25, 20, 30 minutes looking for this guy. They thought he'd collapsed. So it's not really, is it paranormal? What would you call it? He couldn't have gone anywhere. He couldn't have jumped over the cliff because the cliff still were a good distance away. They'd only walked 40 to 50 yards to Brower Hill, and he weren't there. And you're still looking at half a mile to cliffs. So a strange one. Another strange one in a similar area is one at Farmers who's got some decking. And he's sat there, I don't know, having a cup of tea, glass of wine, I don't know, end of day, corn's high, but there's nothing but corn outside of his decking and his farmhouse. And he said to me, I went down there, parked up, and I'd done what I was going to do. And he said, I've got something strange to tell you. I said, well, what's that? He said, I was sat here the other night. He said, and there's a voice in corn, an electronic voice. And I said, how far away? 10, 15 feet away. He says, in the corn. There's no tracks in corn. There's nothing. And he's pretty isolated farm, not near any main roads, private road to get to it. And he can hear this electronic voice. What's interesting, people might have heard me talking about it before, but I went into a little bit of woodland quite close, very early one morning, when now people, we're going to have to be careful with the words here because we've realised that we got penalised for saying certain words a few weeks ago. So where the animal deaths were occurring is what I'm going to say. And went into this little bit of woodland very early, just getting light. I'm walking between bracken, and there's an electronic voice. Similar time scale as what this guy's talking about. Sounded like a robot. It were weird, and it unnerved me. And there were a field with that purple flowers in it, borage. And I thought, do I go back this same way, or do I climb fence and walk through field? And I'm not one to trample through crops. And I ended up going back the same way, but it really did unnerve me. So what's this voice phenomena? You could say that there's somebody tucked into bracken and they're using a walkie-talkie. So that's what you heard, Paul. And that's a plausible one, but not for the farmer. It were outside of him, and there's no tracks in corn. There's no trails through it. So we've jumped, Rick, from your question there of the crossover phenomena. But I don't know. As people know, I do jump about all over the place anyway.
Yeah, and like the crossover phenomena is what you experienced at Bempton when you buried a number of watches. And there was... just tell us a little bit about them for the people who haven't heard that.
Yeah, I haven't got the dates in. I haven't got the dates in front of me, and you kind of get penalised if somebody's read book and you've get wrong date out now.
Yeah, sure, yeah. So,
something tells me it probably 2017, and I got some quartz analog. Where you can see it second hand and everything moving around. 2 watches in plastic bags. Exact time on both watches or thereabouts within seconds in plastic containers, buried on cliff tops. And I can't remember even paces. I think it were 200 paces apart. And every I tried to get up twice a week, and I was checking time to see if anything had happened.
Yeah.
And at one point, and I can't remember the date, but I checked 2 of the boxes, and they were still working, but I think they'd lost an hour. This box is still up there. Somebody's going to find them on Time Team one day. Do you know what I mean? But, it was a strange one. I felt like a scientist. Obviously, I weren't, but we'd call it the time experiments. I wish I'd have known you were going to ask us that, Les, because I could have gone into it in detail. But there's that many things sort of bouncing around in my head that, there's reports and people telling me things just constantly. And I like to try and keep up with it, but you just can't hold on to all of it. Do we have any questions?
Well, yeah, I can go through some because Deborah has sent some through because...
Well, thank you, Deborah.
Yeah, I know you picked up on some, but there was a lot before that what came in, and she's just sent them through to us. So I'm asking, let's have a look. Yeah. Right, okay. Tim Brennan, did you ask this one, Paul? You had to remind me. Paul Les, any intelligent life form reports in the Wolflands forests up to now?
Yeah, in a word, yes. Yep. And without a doubt, I mean, when we call it the Wolflands forests, I mean, we can't just say forest, Tim. It's forests, because although they're all separated by names, they're all touching each other just about. There's not much separation as in big areas of land. And jumping to the Gamekeeper's encounter, 2002, that began with a sphere of light that literally is walking back to this abandoned building with his nephew, and it literally sprung up from the side of him. Baseball-sized, white sphere of light, and with his background as being ex-Marines, as I've said before, he were expecting it to explode above him and just light up the area. He thought it were a tripwire flare, and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. But this kind of ties in with Rick's question. After that, things did happen. After that, he was hearing the baby crying in the forest. Him and another gamekeeper, and they'd walk to the edge of the forest. It'd stop, and in Jeff's own words, he felt like it were trying to lure him in. Now that we know that the infant crying is often associated with Bigfoot type phenomena, but I only go with what our witness says, and he felt it were almost what we're watching him. What came and stood at the farmhouse window looking in at him were more, we'll call it Dogman, Wolfman related. So obviously we've only got Jeff's word, and he didn't see glowing eyes and gnashing teeth. But yeah, so that started with a sphere of light, ended with a cryptid, but we've got all manner of other unexplained phenomena taking place. The voices, the perception that he actually felt at times that something was stood outside of him. He said, I'd be chopping logs outside, and it felt like there was something on my shoulder. And he's not got loads of stories to tell, this guy, He's not got a great booklet of things to talk about. He's an honest fella who's related a story, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, honest, hard-working fella. I'm just going to ask some more questions here, what pops into the chat, Paul. Johnny Appleseed, and it's a good question, is this one, actually. Is there any photo or video in the UK... photo, video, UK footage from bipedal dogmen that you believe is genuine? Have you seen anything where you think, hang on, that's either sitting on the fence, or it's fake, or it looks genuine?
No, and you make a good point. And I'd love to be able to say I've seen photographs, and and there's some footage out there, and there probably is footage out there, and there's probably photograph. But I don't. And when I say I don't, but do I believe it's genuine? I might have seen photographs that are genuine, so I'm not dissing everybody. But I think we're all, as individuals, we've got to base it on what we believe. Now, and I'll sort of hold my hand up and say, yeah, I believe these things are real. 100% hand on heart know that these people who have seen these things are telling us a true story. But
yeah,
there's the massive one. Where's the proof of it? Where's the proof of the UFOs? We've seen drips of footage, grainy military footage. Go on.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question, following on what you just said, it goes deeper than that, because if I see a video, I want to know the far end of everything of where it come from. I want
Yeah.
to know who did it, but more importantly, I want to hear their accounts of when they took this video, of what they felt at the time. So that's as important as just seeing a few frames of video or a photograph, in my opinion, because obviously you're getting the full rounded picture that way. But you get so many anonymous pictures posted up and so many videos that you can't verify, then it becomes a bit of an impossible journey, I think, in that respect.
No, I think you make a good point. I mean, even with my limited experience with what now we've been doing Wolflands of editing, because I mean, you know, if it's an 100% thing, I'm sort of sat there, and Les is doing most of editing. So, you know, I've no shame in saying that. But with my limited experience of it, you know, you would want to know who's put the film together, because it's. I think I would imagine it's quite easy to fake stuff, or for gullible people to believe that they're seeing something. I mean, you see a lot of pictures like
Yeah.
with motion blur on us and trying to describe something that's an oblong shaped UFO in sky, and then you look at the lights down below on the
Yeah.
street lights and they're all trailing, and you realize it's not an oblong shaped UFO.
No, it's
just a blob of light that's with a camera movement. But I mean, I've you know, years ago I fell for all that kind of stuff, and you think you're looking at something spectacular. Somebody the ones I'm not keen on are the people who send me pictures of supposed dogmen or werewolf type entities, and they can see them in branches, they can see them in trees, you know, the pareidolia.
Yeah, sure.
And then actually when you inspect the tree in detail on photograph, you realize you're looking at a small tree anyway, and these things would be the size of toy soldiers, you know. And I don't know why people do that.
That's it. And I think at the end of it, I think when you just get minimal information or no information, it's just a waste of time trying to follow it up.
Yeah,
you might as well just shelve it and forget it. You know.
I would agree. I've got one that I want to follow up. Well, I need more information. It's at the moment it's a second-hand one, so I'm not going to go into great detail. Well, I'm hardly going into any detail, but just to kind of whet your appetites, because it's got me interested. And I've only been told about it last couple of days that there's an account of divers on the gas rigs out in the North Sea encountering what we'd call light form phenomena under the sea. So second-hand accounts, no details for anybody yet, because they're going to try and get me in touch with divers that have encountered this. So I find that quite interesting. Well, I find it really interesting. Spheres of light traveling through water. So yeah.
And I'll just say at this point, and I did forget to mention at the top of the show, just as a sad discussion, I'd like to know if people have had any OBEs, out of body experiences, or they've had any near death experiences. I'm always interested to hear things like that. So if you've had any experiences, pop them in the chat, and we'll see. Obviously, if they're worth discussing on tonight's show.
The out of body experiences. I don't really think I've had any. I might have had when I've had a few glasses of beer. You know what I mean? But it ropes me a bit. But
most probably, yeah. I'm just going to follow on with another question, if you don't mind, Paul.
No,
it's Johnny Appleseed, and it follows on from really what we've just been talking about. No, I'll get it right in a minute. No, it isn't. It's Gillian Stapleton is asking, what does Paul think about the filming of the Big Cat at Doncaster McDonald's on the February the 2nd this year? Have you seen the filming, or I've seen a photo?
I've seen it. Hard to say, innit? I mean, it does look like a big cat, because a lot of them that you see, I don't know, newspapers put them out and put these clips of footage. You kind of look at the grass and look at what it's walking through, and you think, well, that grass is only about 3 or 4 inch long. Yet cat only looks to be 8 inch above it. Do you know what I mean? So it's a normal cat at a distance.
Yeah. Well, the photo the photo I saw, Paul, was well, I've no means of reference as regards what you've just alluded to, SARS.
Yeah.
I've no reference in the photo. I mean, I can take a photo. Anybody can take a long lensed photograph, and the grass in the foreground, you know, you're not going to get a true distance of size of that object in the background.
No, I'm sorry. We sound a bit negative here, guys. As regards, we're here to talk about something that we know is real. Leslie's doing it. I'm doing it, but I just don't want to. I don't want to just get swamped into believing everything that everybody puts out is real. We've sifted through lots and lots of witnesses for Wolflands, and and I've got one other week that we won't be even touching, but because not everybody's telling you the truth.
I've got a good question from Nickname, and he's asking what has scared you, Les, on the investigation. Well, I can say, Nickname, at this point, I've been on lots of filming trips with Paul, and I can honestly say, and I'm sure Paul will back me up on this, I've never been in a scared situation. I was reluctant to go on the first one when it was offered me, and I was very, very frightened at that point. But and considering when you get into the woodlands, the woods, the deep forests, you can't see your hand in front of your face, and it was a little bit unnerving. But yeah, I can't say I was scared. But I will tell you of another instance where I was scared, and this is fascinating, really. I was travelling. I had occasion to travel back from London a few years ago now in a motorhome, and I had somebody came with me to. We did a little bit of business down there. Came back up, and we stopped halfway. Now we stopped at Boston, in Boston, the town in Lincolnshire. I was looking for somewhere to just park up overnight, and decided to follow the road. I don't know. The road goes on a straight road right to really the mouth of where the river comes into Boston, and I think there's a lighthouse at the end. Parked up there, went to sleep. It was a freezing cold night, so it wasn't midsummer or anything like that where you get lots of people about. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, there was this almighty banshee-like scream. Now, if you can imagine, if you've heard people describe banshee sounds and screaming,
Banshee, you mean, Les?
Banshee, yeah. And that's what I kind of put it down to when I heard it. When I first heard it, that's exactly what was going through my mind. And this scream, it went on for, I don't know, what is it, 30 seconds, and then it stopped, and it went on again. And there was nothing behind us, because it was just the banks of the river, a lighthouse, and a picnic area. Well, I can assure you, nobody was picnicking at 2 a.m. in the morning on a cold winter's morning. And that did frighten me. That I was unnerved. I had to get out there pretty quick, pretty sharpish.
Did you go out and investigate? Did you have a look?
I did, actually. I was brave enough to open the door, go out and think, well, and tentatively look around, basically in the dark, pitch black. It's yeah. But now somebody did say to me, well, this could be like swans, animals of that type, to give that type of sound. But I don't think so myself. Yeah, it was very, very unnerving, was that. So, but that's the only really, really frightening experience I've had to answer the question, really.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, Les, but like you said, it unnerved you. I mean, we've been up onto cliff tops this week. I went up with Bob and Pete earlier in the week.
Yeah. And
I said well, Bob didn't go with me last night, and neither did Pete. Quite out of the blue, I got a phone call that a guy were going up who I've met before, and I did want to spend a bit of time with him, Kez, and ex-military, interesting guy, and he were going up. Steve Ashbridge went up. They ended up with 7 of us up there.
Right.
And that question were asked last night, funnily enough, and we spent hours and hours up there.
Yeah.
And I were up there with Steve Ashbridge a few years ago, because nothing happened last night. Nothing happened earlier in the week, like I've told people, you know, if you go up there and you're expecting to see something, you might be disappointed because you can go for months and months and months. But, you know, there's just an higher probability of something happening around that place. That's how I like to put it. But a few years ago, I know if me and Steve go and his work's favourable, we're not going to come back while early hours at morning, and we walk to the very end of day where Danes Dyke reach comes out at the north side. And for some reason, I don't know what, between 12 and 1 in the morning, it's unlike me, I felt really frightened. I pointed it out to Steve. He didn't. And we don't go around screaming and bawling and flashing torches and making a noise. We've been doing it year in, year out. But that got me that time. And I can't explain it. It's happened to Steve and it's happened to numerous people, you know, over the years. But you can go for many months without anything happening. And I don't know what descends on the area to change its mood. But that's basically, probably a good analogy. The mood of the whole mood of the area changes, and there's so many people sort of come forward and said that, you know, suddenly we've been frightened. We're not going to go fishing up there no more, and this has happened and that's happened. So it is interesting. I see we've got plenty of questions here.
Yeah, I'm just looking down now. Blue Shift is asking, how is the Dalby case coming along, Paul? Which is part of what we're looking into.
Well, we've got Tony Dodd to thank for including the Dalby case in Wolflands. 100% we've got Tony to thank, and I think a lot of researchers should give these historic reports, when they give them an airing, they should credit the people who actually started looking into them first, and it weren't me, it were Tony Dodd. And Tony highlighted that there'd been some fatalities. Once again, we're being careful what we say here, people, because we weren't flavour of the day last week with certain bodies. It's by our feedback that we got from things, and some fatalities were found in Dalby Forest back in the mid 1990s, as people might know, and we've included it. Why have we included it in Wolflands? Because Tony was also saying, along with the research, that there'd been light form phenomena seen, UFOs seen, which all acts back to Rick's earlier question, and strange creatures seen in the forest. Nothing new, 1990s to 2022, it's still being seen. Folklore, going back hundreds of years, we're talking about it. Gothland and the Guy Trash, the huge dog with flaming red eyes, Kettle Ness, Skinning Grove. They've all got, I mean, we've Skinning Grove's in Wolflands, people. We haven't really talked about Skinning Grove. That's about the farthest reaches of where the film extends to. And we've got a guy there who literally was feet away whilst he's hiding in the undergrowth with his friends from something that he said he believes it could have been like a Bigfoot. But it's an account that's worth including. And his analogy, what it did when he actually looked up and saw it, and he remarked, he said, have you seen a dog when it hears a funny noise and it tips its head? He says it looked at him and did that. And, you know, it's quirky and it's interesting. And these are the reasons Wolfland's taking so long. This guy came forward months and months ago, early last year, but only came to be filmed late last year. And we didn't think you were going to be included, Les, really, did we?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these people will sit on the idea and then they'll contact Paul, probably, and then they'll still sit on the idea for what seems a long while before we ever meet them properly. Isn't that right, Paul?
It is right, yeah. I mean, I just wish some of these people would be bolder. We know that there's some brilliant accounts out there that still aren't getting spoken about. I got a guy talk to me that he'd been at Reesty Bank, which is close to where we've been filming and going into these places. Incidentally, Reesty means rancid, so it's a lovely name for area that we're looking into. But he's seen something absolutely terrifying up there, and I got several emails off him, and then it just stopped. And I never even asked if he'd considered participating in Wolflands. I initially just wanted the account.
Yeah.
But it's obviously far too traumatic,
Traumatic. Yeah.
or nearly as bad as you then, Les, with what you said earlier. Has anybody thought about what Les said about the fishing?
Yeah, well, I think Deborah's posted one, but I think we'll have to sort of like at the end of the show actually go through it because I don't think I've got a definitive first one here.
No.
Unless I'm looking at. No, I don't
It
think
don't
I've got
matter
one.
anyway, because it made me laugh. But the fishing trip.
Oh, okay then. Right, so let's try and move on a little bit then, Paul. Thanks for the questions, by the way. Really appreciate
Well,
it.
it helps
Thanks for.
massively, doesn't it? You know, because as I say, one reason or another, we didn't have a guest tonight. Fingers crossed it's John Hanson next week, and we are working on a few other people. It's difficult because Les is busy with things. We've also been busy in the full days when you get in Forest. And today, I've not done anything, nothing to do with any of this or anything. I've been out
Well, that's
helping
it, yeah.
a friend who's crashed his car last night and all sorts of things, you know. But life,
Yeah.
people, in it's life. We all have to deal with it.
Life gets in the way, Paul. However much exciting this can be, and it is exciting, and people are asking me how I. Actually, a good question came in. I ain't got it in front of me, but they did ask me how I originally got into working with you originally, and I can say that now. I can remember the exact. Oh, and what was the first conversation I had with you, type of thing, and how did that go? So the answer to that is that I first met Paul in 2017, and the reason for that was I run a Facebook page called East Yorkshire TV, and what I used to do in those days was feature people who were interesting to me on a personal basis, and because I was interested in UFOs, Bigfoot, all things paranormal, etc., Paul was an obvious person for me to contact at the time. And originally we was going to do a 15-minute segment on Paul Sinclair and where he got up to in that point. And I think at that point you was on Truth Proof 2 in the process of finishing off and publishing at that period. And it kind of all went from there, really. More interest developed, more interest, I guess, for want of a better phrase. And it was then, I think it was 2 years ago, that we thought we'd embark on something a little bit more adventurous in regards filming. So
Yeah.
that's where we are with Wolfland. So that's a quick summary. But his first words, my first words were to him is, "Hey, you got kettle on?"
It probably will, yeah.
"Hey, you got kettle on?" Yeah, because I've travelled a few miles, Paul, to come and
Yeah.
see you today. Have you
Well,
got kettle on?
Jumping from that, I see one of the questions, save you typing it out, Deb, was are there any sightings in Thornwick Bay? Which, for anybody that doesn't know where Thornwick Bay is, it's very close to Flamborough Head. It's very close to North Landing. It's a little cove, absolutely beautiful. In summer, it's just idyllic. And yeah, there are sightings and reports from Thornwick Bay. One of them from a rock angler who will not mind mentioning his name, called Andrew Barmby. And if you go on fishing forums and things around our area, you'll find his name because he's prolific. He wins a lot of matches and competitions, and he'd no need to tell me this, but he were fishing in Thornwick Bay. Don't ask me year. A little offshot. There's a cafe on the top, a little old cafe that looks like it's been trapped in time. If you go inside it, unless they've revamped it, it looks like it's still there from late 60s, early 70s. And then you sort of go down a few earth cut out steps and get into the cove. And he's fishing this particular night on his own. I think he's fishing for bass. That has any relevance to the story, but you can see all cove and everything around you. He says, and two huge globes of gold light lit up off the cliff face in the cove, below the cliff, totally silent. So he's looking across at them. He's not looking quarter of a mile. He's just looking 80, 100 yards. That's where they are. He says they're as big as cars. And they're just apart, and he's puzzled by them and staring at them and watching them. And I think he told me that he had a GoPro camera and never even thought to take a picture or film them. You know, but that happens. I mean, it still happens with us. But anyway, they switch off. Andy's thinking to himself, like, oh, God, well, that were unusual. What were that? No sound. There weren't helicopters. Guy's on fishing. 5 minutes past, 15 minutes past, the light up again. Same spot. Packs his gear up and goes. These are the kinds of sightings that are so frustrating. We I wouldn't say die to get footage like that, but that's what we're looking for, close up. He said as he's climbing out of the cove, going to his car, they're still there. As he's driving away, and it's a bit undulating ground, he can still see them as he gets into certain positions. He said now, in hindsight, he wished he'd have sort of tailed round and got even closer, but he didn't. I mean, Andy's account, if anybody's seen Bringing Down the Light, what I did with Chris Turner, and incidentally, if anybody wants a copy of Bringing Down the Light, go to the website, truthproof.uk, because, and contact Chris, because we do have some copies of it. But, you know, Andy's account's in there, and it's interesting because the guy, he comes across as nothing but honest. He ain't got lots of stories to tell. He's got another one more story from Cornelian Bay in Scarborough with another rock angler who tells the same story of seeing a UFO in a snowstorm while they're fishing in a match. And what's interesting, I mean, I can go into the story in a minute, but what's interesting is Cornelian Bay is very close to Scalby Mills, where one of our witnesses from Wolflands had the strange experience. It's very close, which would be, oh God, what do they call it? Jackson's Bay. And it's where a guy called Mally Skelton saw, he's fishing, he's rock angling he's fishing one night, gets the uneasy feeling. I mean, why do these animals give us the uneasy feeling when you've not seen them? And that normal, a fox, a cow, a horse, don't give you that feeling. You've thought how are they able to impress this fear and apprehension onto a person where you just turn around, you think there's someone watching you, and he hit it with his headlight, and he said it was going along the bottom of the cliff. Huge, like a Great Dane, but we're moving like a cat, not quite a dog. Didn't know what it was. Once again, jumping back to Rick's question, a location where lots of other things are seen. So I know original question was Thornwick Bay and around that area. Andrew Barnby's sighting, but a lot of the spheres of light that we observe around that area, around the Five Arches at the back of the lighthouse. You know, that's where people are seeing these things. That's a little bit further on towards, you know, the South Landing where the lighthouse is. But we're not talking massive distances. We're only talking like a mile or 2 miles between.
Just a few miles, isn't it?
And out at sea, Les. And out at sea. Incidentally, I got an email from a pilot. Well, probably got it from him a few years ago, but he messaged me again a few weeks ago, and we've been exchanging correspondence. And I thought, right, I'll take advantage here of this guy's knowledge, far superior to mine. I've been trying to work out the coordinates of the magnetic anomaly, and I thought it were about 22 miles off Bempton, so it's like in between Bempton and Flamborough. It's approximately 20 miles. He's worked it out. I've given him the coordinates of the old maps. It's 18 nautical miles. Obviously, we're not going to stick a pin in the map and say that's it, because it could actually spread out to be 10 mile either side of that. We don't know. But that anomaly interests me immensely due to other things that happen in the area. The fishermen experiencing not missing time, but advanced time. You know, the list goes on and on, you know.
Yeah, and I've just got to go back and thank Umbraman for asking the question how I became aware of Paul and what was the first memorable conversation with him. So thanks, Umbraman, for asking that. Yeah, and I'll move on a little bit then, because Deborah sent me some through, and there's lots here. Paul, I would like to donate Truth Proof 1 to someone, please. Alison Bull. Okay.
Oh, yeah, well, I will do. I have a feeling they're not going to think of what you said, but it's so easy, people. But,
yeah. Okay, so following on from that, let's have a look. Okay, Breaking the Clowns is asking Les, what theory of Paul's do you most disagree with and why? What theory of Paul's? Well, I'll be honest, Breaking the Clouds, I don't think there's any theory I disagree with. And I think the clue's in the word theory.
That's what they are.
Because that's really what they are. You can have a theory about something. I could have a different theory. Don't mean you're right or wrong. It don't mean I'm right or wrong. But you've got to substantiate that. Then try and substantiate that theory with something solid behind that theory, some known facts, some evidence, and along this route to substantiate that theory. Because, but no, I don't think there's a theory that Paul's had that I've disagreed with. What would you say on that, Paul?
Well, that's good, Les. I want to just jump to it because I just saw somebody made me smile and said, I see Lord Don of Lodges in the chat. Hi, Don, which has prompted me to remember to say what a great job you've done with website, and Deb Singleton, our moderator, for sort of putting all the reports from the Truth Proof books together. The little short snippets, and it's revealing patterns and date-wise and everything. So she's gone through the books and really appreciated. So anybody that wants to go to truthproofuk.uk and have a look at that, it's amazing. It really is. You don't realise, as Deb said, you don't realise just how many reports that I've sort of looked into and gone through, and I've got a folder now just absolutely chocker with them. We could do another live stream if I started pulling some of them out and just talking about some of them things. I mean, half the information's not in my head. It's stuff that I've saved, messages, and I have telephone conversations with people, make notes, and there's just absolutely piles and piles. There's probably 30,000 words of it again. That's why half that stuff's just dropping out of my head as fast as people are telling me. It's just a bit overwhelming. So,
sorry, Paul.
No, don't be sorry.
Right, I've just got to reel back a little bit because I did miss one from Nickname. How did Les get involved? Well, we've answered that one. And what is the most compelling case he thinks of Paul's? Well, I've got to say, really, Nickname, is that all the cases that Paul has told me about and he's told you guys on the live streams about, to me, they're all compelling. Because really, at the end of the day, these aren't fabricated stories. Because I'm sure Paul can sort the wheat from the chaff, if you know what I mean. And when he gets these reports in, as he said, through either telephone, emails, or whatever, or website, then he does a thorough job and trying to get to the bottom of these reports if he can. So from my perspective, I see what Paul does, and from what I see, all the cases that Paul thinks are compelling, I kind of agree that they're compelling from my point of view as well.
Well, Les, we try as hardest. I don't always get it right. Do you know, when I was writing Truth Proof 4, and Don were helping me, put it together and correcting things and what have you, I spent a lot of time. I'm not gonna say the case. I'm not gonna name the people because it's just done with. But I will say I spent a lot of time on a story that were over 10,000 words, and I got a good researcher in Al Carter to start looking into things to help me as well. And it turned out to be a load of rubbish. So I was taken in for a while, and I'm not. You know what I mean? So we don't always get it. But the point is, I'm relieved because I just pulled it straight out of the book. It's an absolutely incredible story, but that's what it is. And
so without probably, I don't know, probably going into other details, what is it? What was the trigger that lit up the bulb in your head to say this is not right? What?
First of all, we couldn't get. There were certain things that we thought we would get information on when we went down a few channels, official channels, and we didn't, and nobody were forthcoming. And people who were working at this particular place at the time, and it's not Hummonby, by the way, because that's just absolutely an incredible account. But so we didn't get that. Then another researcher who I know well and respect contacted me to tell me that he'd heard a different version of the events. I got first person to hear them, but he'd heard a different version, and I'd got enough respect for that researcher to know that I'm not pursuing it any further. Didn't feel bad about it. I honestly, it had just gone. That was end of it. You know, it's just how it is, and you know, these things happen.
Yeah, well, that's it. Innit? If you well, it's a good thing in that way that you had the help of another investigator to you know, give you the information that they've had another story.
Yeah, absolutely different version of events, same place, same time, similar scenario, but different.
So in that kind of respect, you know, I think this helps the cause of getting these these true accounts out there rather than the ones that are blatant. Well, not blatantly in the case that you was investigating, because you didn't know until you got this other information, did you?
Well, no, there were a few alarm bells ringing, but once I'd got the other details of the other account, the same account but with different details, that was just enough for me, because I've got enough respect for this particular person to realise that, you know, two versions of the same story, and there were vast differences. Same account but vast differences. It couldn't have been true. So that's end of that one anyway. So come on, hit us with some more questions and let's see where we're going with it.
Let's have a look then. Oh dear. Umbraman. There's Umbraman with a sense of humour. Les, what is your daily chalk ice intake? Well, that would be telling, Umbraman. You know, but there is a few flavours out there I do quite like, and but no doubt as we get into the spring, summer, more of them will be digested.
I think the most amusing thing when we're doing editing for Wolflands, because Les gets it all up on screen, and I see a little boxing corner with Les, but he's eating banana sandwiches.
Well, I didn't really want to divulge that information on tonight's show, Paul, but there we go. It's you've let it out of the bag. Yeah. So there you are, banana sandwiches, guys.
Have we got more questions? Because
we have got more questions, and I know you touched on it earlier about the reports on the website, but tell people who may have come into the stream, and they can see the Truth Proof website name on there, but please tell these people who haven't seen it what they can do on there and the books that they can purchase from there.
Well, website's easy to negotiate. Obviously, just click on the link. Anybody interested in Truth Proof books, you can, like as it says, you can go on there and purchase them. They're no longer available on Amazon, so it's truthproof.uk. I can't see its screen, so I'm assuming it's there, like you say, Les. And we've got lots of reports. You know, I mean, we're heading towards 200 reports. It don't sound a lot when some of the major sort of websites around the world have got thousands and thousands. But what's unique about the reports are that you'll not find them anywhere else in the world. And you know, they've come to us and they've given us their first-hand accounts, and we're really grateful. And just keep them coming, please. Don puts them on as I get them, or if we both get them, because there's an email that if you fill form in on the website, we both get it. So I usually reply to people thanking them, and Don puts them on and adds little bits. He'll put photographs on or whatever's needed, or I'll get the witness to do as a drawing. So that part of it is really good. I kind of thrive on getting these sort of unique UFO cryptid type reports, like form reports, because some of them don't make it to a website. Not the vast majority, but some of them don't, because they're sort of worthy of writing about. You know, so we might just put a few paragraphs on website, and I'll just store a load of information because I know it's something that I'm going to be writing about. You know, and so, and it's not the books, it's not me, it's you people that make the books sort of possible, really, because I'm just a conduit, just putting it all down. I'm not, you know what I mean? That's all it is. I'm just writing the words of the people, and continue to do so. I don't know whether I'll get round to a book this year, but by no means have I given up with it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and the latest book, where is it in the Amazon charts, Paul?
In the new releases, that Truth Proof 4 has been #1 now for weeks, at least 4 weeks. I'm amazed. I just don't know how it's done it, because it's not. It sounds like a boast, this, doesn't it? But it's not just competing with a paperback to help it. It's on its own. It's just the Kindle version, and it's also been, that's in the new releases, but it's also been #1 in the actual UFOs in general, which is, I'm really pleased. But they've all done that. All by #2, I think. #2 didn't manage it.
Yeah.
But no, none of them have done for 4 weeks. So I'm impressed.
I'm impressed for you. Paul Tucker. Well, it's a one-line answer for me on this question. What would Les and Paul's Desert Island discs be?
Interesting.
Yeah, well, mine is Bad Moon Rising by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Oh, very good. Well, I'd have loads of music. I just like all genres of music, and anybody that knows me, and if any of my daughters were in, or any of my friends, they know that if I go out, I'm singing. Don't care. If there's music on and there's a microphone, I will sing. And I don't profess to be a great singer, by the way, but if there's an REM, David Gray, I'm good for it. I just love it. Do you know what? Honestly, but equally, I like Buddy Holly. All types of music, Skunk and Nancy. It's good sometimes just to talk about other things rather than UFOs and unexplained. Get inside somebody's head and find out a little bit more about them, what makes them tick. So, great question.
And one from nickname. Where in the world would Les like to investigate with Paul? Well, I guess, as we know and told, Paul has already tagged it as the
UK Skinwalker. Are you talking?
The UK Skinwalker Ranch in and around Bempton, East Yorkshire. So I suppose the next best thing would be Skinwalker Ranch. So that's where my thinking's going on that one. Paul, I'm somewhere different.
No, it'd be an incredible place to visit. But do you know, I say this in all fairness to all these areas, because there's people in chat, there'll be people watch this afterwards, and they've got areas where things are happening. They've just not got somebody probably researching it as hard as what I'm doing. But these people who've got locations where things are happening, they'll have valid reasons why, and they're probably working 8-10 hours a day, so they can't be actually on it all the time. So just because I'm highlighting these areas in East and North Yorkshire does not mean that I'm labelling them the hotspot of the UK or the world. Honestly believe that these places exist all over the place. It's just having someone or a group of people dedicated enough to go there. Like we've said, those cliff tops, I'll probably be there again tomorrow. I might be there again Saturday.
Right.
Months and months, Les. Months and months, hours and hours and hours, and it's fruitless. But you just know that it does have the potential to surprise you. That's what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, of course. Ralph Winter is asking both of us, have either of you been inside a crop circle? I can say straight off the bat I have not, but I would like to. Paul?
Okay. I have. I'm just, but before we get, Umbraman's just seen Paul doesn't say Jessica Pym's entire catalogue, and that's my daughter, by the way. So if anybody wants to Google her, put it into YouTube, Jessica, her music, So I am really sort of proud of what she does. So yeah, I missed a trick there, didn't I? Crop circle. I went to see one in Rudston many years ago, and I only got to see it because, well, I knew the farmer, and I had to make a promise that I weren't going to turn it into a thoroughfare by telling other people. And it were nothing elaborate. It were no intricate pattern with a message from God. It were literally a circle, and didn't get any strange sensations or feelings in it or around it. But interestingly, and here's one that I have told before, and probably only a few weeks ago, but during the height of what was happening at Wilsthorpe back in 2009, a farm very close to where it was happening, they got a crop circle in the corner of a field near the road. And I've told this story before. He had a combine harvester without air conditioning, so it was red hot. It's the summertime, and he had a liver-coloured spaniel dog. I kind of say it as I'm told it, and that's what he'd told me. And they'd got this crop circle, not really made a big thing of it. It was there, and when they came to cut the crop, as the head of the combine hit the crop circle, the dog sat up in the cab and began to howl all the way through it. And when they did the field and then made another pass at this crop circle, it did it again. And he also commented, because I think this is an interesting little snippet, picking up on what he said. He said, when we entered the crop circle, inside the cab became very cold. So I wondered then if other people who are researching crop circles have ever thought to themselves, is the air temperature, I don't know,
different, yeah,
12
drops.
foot above, 12 foot above the ground, different to 5-6 foot? Because that would have just a throwaway comment that the farmer made to me, that one stuck with me. Plus the behaviour of the dog, because the dog, he didn't set it, dog, oh, we're coming near crop circle now, make sure you get up and howl. It sensed something when the head hit that.
Yeah.
So there was some residue of whatever created that circle there, be it extreme weather phenomena, be it some kind of earth phenomena, or something unexplained, as in paranormal.
Yeah. Now, my first thoughts on that, Paul, are that this farmer is sat on top of a combine harvester, which initially is going to be hot to start with. So for him to remark that the temperature suddenly drops, it must have dropped a hell of a lot.
Yeah, oh, without a doubt, yeah. And that one kind of resonated with me, and I thought it is something that maybe people who research, should we say, crop circles, should take on board. I don't know how you, well, air temperature, obviously, there'll be some kind of gauge or barometer that you could use. There's got to be something, hasn't there? But yeah, an interesting one.
Yeah, how many reports have you heard actually coming back from farmers though? Because they're pretty reluctant on the whole, aren't they, to talk about strange experiences?
Very, very reluctant, and it's the same as the guys working the sea, the trawlermen.
Yeah.
But you do get people that tell you. Basically, you've got to. I say got to. It's nice to know some of these people outside of the working environment, or in a working environment. I mean, I was very fortunate and to become good friends with a trawlerman from Bridlington, who's kind of highly respected. He took a spell out from working the sea and came and worked on building sites. So we became great friends. I don't think I'd have got to talk to half as many of the fishermen and trawlermen if I had not known Tom Quinn. And I'm thankful to Tom for that reason, because a lot of people know and respect Tom, and if you'd met Tom, you'd know why. He's an imposing kind of figure, isn't he, at 6'6".
Yes,
and
I've had the pleasure of meeting Tom.
Yeah, he's a great guy to be around, really good. But he would say, oh, well, he'd heard something, and he'd take you to these guys and said, Paul can be trusted. Tell him what happened.
Yeah,
and that's how it is. That I don't think I'd have got under the skin of a lot of these people without being friends with other people. It's in order, isn't it?
I think you've hit on the magic word there, and the magic word is trust.
Yeah, it is trust, because I am sat on some bits of information that I just can't. Obviously, I'm talking about it now, but I mean, I can't talk about it in any detail. I'll stop, because I don't want you to drop out either, because because I know something about the whole fishing trawler. I just can't talk about. There will be a time when I can. I know this, but not at the moment. So anyway, let's. Yeah.
Yes, and well, just to add to that is that I have been talking to retired trawlermen who've said they've had experiences out at sea, but I ain't gone any further into that. You've got more information what you can't talk about.
Yeah.
So
that's a sensitive one. I mean, if somebody had put a question in, I'd have probably said words to that effect. Have you ever been given any information that you can't talk about? Yeah, I have. And they've trusted me enough to talk to give it me, and that's as far as I'll go with.
Okay then, so moving on through the questions then, Paul. Mysteries and Monsters is asking, gents, have you ever had any reports of strange incidents from the Revelstoke Hotel in Bridlington?
No, I haven't. And that the Revelstoke is literally
Not far, is
500
it?
yards that way from where I'm sat now. And I'm good friends with a guy who used to do maintenance there, a joiner. He's retired now, but I used to work with him on building sites. And he'd never said anything to me. But
Okay.
this is Mysteries and Monsters. I think it's Paul. So
Right.
give us a line of what's been seen or experienced in there, Paul. Unless you don't want to, it's that's interesting.
Yeah. I film UFOs. Paul, have you received any type of reports? And this is sort of like when you was alluding to a lot of phenomena happening in other parts of the country as well. Have you had any reports from buried ditches in Shropshire? I see a lot like phenomena in this area and would like to know if anyone else sees anything in that area. So,
I haven't. I film UFOs, but if if there are reports there and you see the light form phenomena, then if you've got the time to devote to it, I'm pretty sure that you would soon start gathering. You know, that snowball would soon start to build, and I think that'd be one for you to work on. And yeah,
yeah.
we'd love to hear about it, perhaps on a live stream. Just sticking with that for a moment as well. At some point, I don't know, next few weeks, next month or so, we'd like Deb on, who's doing our moderating. So we will need another moderator for that night, people. So if anybody wants to put themselves forward, or Deb wants to sound anybody out, maybe.
Yeah. Put that in the chat tonight, guys. If you want to do just the moderating for 1 week,
because she's got some interesting things to say, and nice little book that Deb wrote, Life is Strange, and highly recommend it. Brilliant. So fire away, let's do these questions.
Okay then. Patricia Adams writes, good question. What's in store for both of you after Wolflands is completed? Well, I'll just start off with the answer. I'm saying the red carpet treatment. Yeah, Patricia, that's what I'm expecting after it's completed. But Paul probably has a completely different idea.
I'll just be glad when it's done. But we have talked about a few other projects, and you know, it's not inconceivable that we won't do something solely about UFOs. Do you know? I don't know. Exactly what. You know, I mean, I'm just amazed that Wolflands isn't done. Or I was 6 months ago, but now you know the scope of it and the people that are coming forward and the detail that we're trying to put into it. You know, it's taking a lot longer than we thought. But I don't know. Maybe just all the UFOs next time. But yeah, we have got ideas for other things, and I know Chris Turner's working on other stuff, and I think you know it won't be inconceivable to have a kind of joint venture like that, but that'd have to be spoken about. But yeah, it won't be the last thing we do anyway. Let's put it that way.
Okay, Miss Gilly B, welcome to the show, Miss Gilly B. Question: who would you like to interview on the show and why? Well, I think you've already alluded to some future guests already, Paul, but I'll let you run with that one.
Well, there's so many people. I mean, I would like to get Whitley Strieber on, and I ought to ask him fairly quick, really, because Whitley's been kind enough to write for all of my books, from the very first book to this one, and he's quite high profile, probably one of the most famous abduction cases in the world. If anybody, you know, and anybody who hasn't seen the film. What it called? Christopher Walken played Whitley Strieber, didn't he?
Oh, right, yeah.
I should be able to remember it, and I can't remember the name of it. Somebody will give it as well.
Somebody will put the name in the chat, yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to get Whitley on. He's always been gracious to me and really good to me. Before I even started talking about my own experiences, he knew, and I kind of 2006. And I just didn't want to talk about it, and he didn't go shouting and bawling about it and pushing me to do it, and he was there when I decided. He just picked it up and ran with it again. So yeah, you know, there's so many people. Daryl Sims, speaking to Daryl Sims, last few weeks, and we'll get Daryl Sims on. So if anybody's seen him on History Channel, the alien hunter, I think that's what he calls himself. There's a guy synonymous with the implants and everything else. So, but
Ah, I'm glad you mentioned that,
Yeah, well,
Paul.
jump to
Implants.
there in a minute, Les. I'm not bothered about names. That's why we've not pursued it that way, because
No.
we've had some absolutely brilliant people on, and you know, Chris Meek from Scotland. What a wealth of information, and
Certainly. Yeah.
and there's that many people that have got. Or what you find, and I include myself in this, is that there's people behind the scenes helping these people, giving them the information, and they don't get the credit for it, because everybody else, we want all the credit. But I'd sooner turn around like we're doing Wolflands. I'm not going to put out that we're doing this segment on the fatalities that were found in Dalby Forest and say it's all my research, because there'll be people there that don't realise it and they'll believe it.
Yeah, sure.
Tony Dodd's research.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a number on it, and we're doing a great job of it, and we're putting him over in a good light.
Yeah,
and,
well.
and we've discovered more. But primarily, he's the guy that unearthed this. Right, I'm rambling again, so let's jump to something else, Les.
Yeah, let's
Communion,
go
yeah.
for it.
Whitley's book, Communion, I should have remembered.
Ah, that was it. Yeah, I should have known myself. And let's have a look. Here's a question from Umbra Man. Yeah, it's a question for me actually, Paul.
Yeah, go for it.
So you can have a drink of water or get a choc ice or whatever you want to do there.
No, you're all right.
And Les, do you practice any form of meditation or man-based forms of trying to initiate contact? Well, there's one answer to that. I've asked Paul if he's done this when I've been up to Bempton with him, and it's not a thing he really practices, I guess. But no, I haven't. In a word, I've not thought, please come down. We're here, me and Paul, or other people as well with us. No, so it's not something I've really thought about too much. But yeah, I'd definitely give it a try. But I know Paul's got different views on that.
Well, I don't know, Les. I mean, just because I don't particularly subscribe to that, don't mean it doesn't work. I've noted that when we take different people up there,
yeah,
things happen.
Yeah.
So
So could there be a connection? You see, yeah.
Yeah, the most spectacular thing I think I've seen up there were Willie Haywood. He'd never been before, and this orange sphere was in the field with us in front of the hillside, and we're both looking at it, and it weren't a little ball, as Lee said. It was as big as a VW. If you want to, when you see the what do you call it, Les? The CGI, is it the reconstruction that you've done in Wolflands of this thing? Yeah, it's spectacular.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just maybe the new people are going into it with a different mindset and putting that thought out. When I went up with Andrew Collins, Andrew actually meditates and tries to connect with this unseen phenomena. It's not really for me, but I'm not knocking Andrew, because he's got faith in it, and who's to say he's not wrong.
Joe Weeks is asking, do you have an opinion on what is doing well, I can't say the word, Paul, because it's a bit sensitive.
We're not allowed to.
Yeah.
I can't see it question, but do I have an opinion on what is causing the animal deaths?
No, the human fatalities is
what the human fatalities. Yeah. I really don't. I mean, if we're to believe Tony's conclusions, then it was some kind of alien intelligence, some alien visitation. Can't say that it was. Highly unusual, though. Highly unusual. And seven bodies found in a similar area in Dalby Forest over a period of time, should I say, that the authorities put out to the locals that they were finding tailors' dummies. They weren't found all at once. They were in ones, and they were finding tailors' dummies. Hence, people will have seen us on social media asking anyone if they'd got a tailor's dummy. and someone were kind enough to donate, and we've been doing a bit of filming.
Space Cadet Lottie is asking, and it's a bit cheeky, this one, Space Cadet Lottie, and I'm surprised Deborah's forwarded this question. What's Paul's favourite whiskey? I drink Jameson's.
I like Jameson's. I like Irish whiskey. Yeah, yeah. It's not
Well,
cheap. It's a good question.
no, you got an answer there, Space Cadet
Yeah,
Lottie.
yeah, I do. I like Jameson's, and to be honest with you, I, I like alcohol.
Yeah,
However, I could probably have a drink tonight or tomorrow, and then not have a drink all week.
yeah.
But yeah, I like a
Gin.
drink. And I like whiskey.
Oh, there you go. That's the answer. Me, I'm a Guinness man, so not so much the yeah, but Guinness is my. So if anybody wants to contribute, either for Paul's whiskey or
Don't be
Guinness,
silly. No, listen, I saw Patricia or Pat Adams Wright say that she's coming up to East Yorkshire, Bempton and Flamborough and Bridlington, and she's going to try CE5. And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
definitely going to meet up with you, Pat. I'm looking forward to it, and don't know whether we'll have any success with CE5, but I shall see what success you get with it, because I'll be there.
Yeah, Jane Louise Bowery. Yeah, welcome to the show, Jane.
Hi,
And
Jane.
yeah, welcome for the questions. Very welcome. What got Les interested in house strangeness? Well, it's not all to do with Paul, because I've had a complete interest in it from when I was reading ghost books when I used to bunk off school and go to the library, and I completely read about ghosts and hauntings in the UK primarily, and that's what got my interest. But yeah, Paul is such an engaging fella that when I met him in 2017, that we're still in there, and so yeah, and I've learnt a lot more since then. So that's where we are on that one. And thanks for the question, Jane. Scrog77, do you think quantum theory and the paranormal are connected? I'll let you start with that one.
I hope that question's for you, Les. I did see that, and I thought, well, I hope that one don't come up for me. It's a little bit above me, to be honest with you. I don't know. I really don't know, but I'd have to understand quantum theory, and I don't mean just read it and have a, have a vague outline of what it is. I don't know. I couldn't answer you.
Yeah, well, I'm on the same vein as Paul, but I'll tell you what, we've had some good guests on in the past who have explored this avenue, and probably if you reach back into some of the earlier shows, there might be some more info there, or some theories that they're putting forward on from these other guests that we've had on. So thanks for the question. Liam McLaughlin is asking, hi Paul and Les, do you believe your work is dangerous in any way, either from authorities or the phenomena you investigate? Do you want to start with that one?
I suppose it could be both, really. If we believe and know that there's a reality to it, and I don't know. It's that if we stay with phenomena, I don't know what can cause this fear and apprehension. Like I spoke about, anybody who were listening earlier when we first kicked this off, the extreme fear that I felt with Steve Ashbridge late after 12 o'clock at night at the end of the cliffs where Danesdyke ends, and I couldn't explain it. It just come over me. And a lot of the witnesses for Wolflands have expressed this extreme fear prior to seeing what they've seen. It's almost, is it the altered environment that's creating the fear, and it might not even be knowingly doing this. Is it an altered environment, and we become immersed in it, and it just kicks off chemicals in our body, the fight or flight, the fear, adrenaline kind of rush? Or is it the actual creature, the phenomena, that is actually impressing it onto us? I don't know. They're the big questions, aren't they? I really don't know. I don't know what impresses this fear, or what impresses the knowing, if we call it the knowing, that we're being watched. Just like the guys in Broxer said, we're being watched. There's something watching us, and then all of a sudden, two huge eyes light up in the darkness.
Yeah, and just a slant off that, or a tangent off that, is that we did some filming outside of a military base recently, and if I remember right, you was telling me we was under observation all the time. So yeah, it's not a great feeling when you're near a military base.
Yeah, that's correct. We don't even have to say it military base, but we were there only this week. Mm-hmm. Once again, for Wolflands and for the Tony Dodd bit, and we were out literally outside the base, but we were being watched, binoculars on us. And
Yeah, so who knows? I mean, if you kind of got the paranoid nature, you could say, well, they could be tuning in tonight's show and
well,
listening
this
to
is
what we're
possible.
talking about.
I just saw that Bobby Dazzler said that she's up for the C5 with Pat
Brilliant.
up at Bempton, which is a great thing because that's Amanda who's
Yeah.
already been on our chat, and Amanda's always welcome, up in these places with us when we go. So, and I hope you're feeling better. So, yeah, I'm sure if you contact Pat, we can get this arranged. So it'll be good. And I'm not saying I subscribe to the CE5, but I wouldn't knock anybody for trying it.
Yeah, and just to finish, something I want to say on Liam McLaughlin's question, I'll just finish off by saying if I got a knock on the door by these authorities, three-letter agencies, then yeah, that's the point. I'd be frightened. So I'll end it on that one.
Yeah. Well, there was the night that myself and Bob Brown were on cliff tops in 2019. And this comes into my mind because as we walked last night, my friend Kez, the military guy, asked me about it. And there's a black Land Rover, Range Rover Vogue on the distant hillside, the one where the rock angler said the spaceship landed, the one where below me and Lee Hayward saw the sphere of light, the one where Bob Brown took the picture of the strange mass on the hillside. Are we looking at an extreme area of eye strangeness there? I wonder. But the Range Rover Vogue followed us as we were walking.
Yeah.
And it got dark. It disappeared into darkness. I rang the farmer to ask if there's anybody up there doing anything that they shouldn't have been doing, bearing in mind there's no torches, they've not got headlights on, and we're sat in the darkness right down close to where the paratroopers had their experience. And Bob's not great on his feet, so we couldn't have ran or done anything. Not that I could have in late 50s. But anyway, they'd cut the corn. So I heard the stubble crunching. Couldn't see the vehicle. And it had done a full sweep at field, come down to the back of us, which were approximately 30 feet away from where we were, and just stopped where we were. Bright, not bright, but a shiny black Range Rover Vogue with no lights on, blacked out windows, manoeuvring in the darkness. That's intimidation. That were unnerving.
Yeah.
Bob's saying, "What shall we do?" I thought, "Well, what can we do?" You know what I mean? I can't run that fast, and he can't run at all. Do you know what I mean? So we just stopped there. It hung around for about 10, 15 minutes, and then just disappeared into darkness. And but that feels like intimidation.
It's the unknown factor, isn't it? You don't
and
know
the farmer said
is.
nobody should have been up there. They'd done the sweep. As soon as you mention things up there, if somebody said they'd seen an unusual van up there, it's like a grapevine. It's same on Wolds as well. You know, they're all interconnected, the farmers, because they're protecting the livestock, they're protecting the properties. Sure. So the word was out, and there's nobody up there. There's nobody up there that they knew. So it was a strange one.
Tim Brennan is asking Paul, where you were frightened at the north end of the dike is near Blake Howe Lane.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, so yeah, that's where I got the fear, Tim, at the north end of the dike, and it's pretty close to Blake Howe Lane. Yeah, it's closer than the other side. Let's put it that way. As I say, we've got Blake Howe Lane and we've got the burial mound, which is called Blake Howe. How, you know, because that's basically what it means. But when you first read the map and you're thinking it's called Blake, it's not. It's Yorkshire dialect. It means black, so it's Blake. That's what they'd say. Do you know what? That's how it is. You go to some of these places, and I won't name any particular village, and you might as well be talking a different language. You know. Would you know what I was saying if I was said to you, "How's Dhubar?"
You could have to put subtitles on there, Paul.
How are you? How's Dhubar?
Yeah.
Is Thu having a Tocky for Christmas?
And that's not very far from you, is it?
No,
Really, that
Thu
location.
having a Tocky for Christmas. We didn't expect to be doing this on a live stream, but are you having a turkey for Christmas? It's crazy. No disrespect. It's all good.
Yeah. Tim Brennan, I've asked that one. Space Cadet Lottie, are there any strange reports from the Thornwick Bay area? No, I know you touched
Well,
one
we've
on
done that
earlier.
one,
Yeah,
Les. Yeah, we've done that.
you did that one. Okay, I didn't know if it was a follow-on or a repeat. But thanks for the question, Space Cadet Lottie. Melanie Hill, question for Paul. Do you think some people are more susceptible to experience the paranormal and others? And why do you think that could be? I think we touched on that, didn't we?
Yeah, but
Just a few
I
questions
think
ago.
it's still
Yeah.
a good question because I do think some people are more susceptible,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably based on being a little bit more open-minded. And it don't mean you can be open-minded and your mind can be like a dustbin and just take anything in. But I'm not. I don't mean it like that. Just more open-minded to the possibility that there is a reality to this. Because I think once you start looking, once you've seen something that's not quite right, and I don't mean an approaching aircraft with two white lights, and you suddenly think that you've been in close encounters. I'm on about the real thing, and you're seeing something like this huge sphere of light in the field with you. Then there's no turning back. You know it's real. You might not know what it is, but you know it's real. So I don't know. You're just more open. It's. I said it loads of times. I really don't even think we've got the vocabulary, the words to describe what we're looking at. I haven't.
Yeah. No, probably not. And great questions tonight, guys. Thanks. Keep on coming.
So pleased. Yeah, I'm so pleased that you've given us these questions because
and
we'd have probably been stumped at an hour.
Yeah, we've just been me and you talking to ourselves, Paul. If nobody coming in and chat, and I'm glad you're enjoying what us answering some of these questions. I've got to say at this point, if you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, please do that now. It would be most welcome. And I ain't got my little caption on the screen today, but yeah, please subscribe and like.
We've probably not said this either before, but if you want to copy the link and just get the link out onto some UFO pages, paranormal pages, please do. I mean, we might get some feedback, good or bad. It's just promoting what we're doing because it's just good to get the word out there. And any suggestions for future guests. And if you've got a suggestion for a future guest and you actually know the people, then all the better. Get them in touch because that's the biggest problem for me at the moment. Time. Sourcing people. You might think it's easy, but I know Bob, my friend Bob Brown, does his radio show, but that's what Bob does. He spends
that's
week sourcing a guest.
We've got no backroom staff, have we, Paul? We ain't no money to pay them, unfortunately. So some great suggestions there. Tony Worrell, has Paul found any more cases of earth being removed from fields? I know of a good case from the Isle of Wight in the 1960s.
No, I haven't. Do you know you're referring to? I think it was 90. Tony can correct me if I'm wrong. It was 63 or 67. I think it was 67, and this is when the large circle of earth were removed from the cliff tops at Flamborough. And the Ministry of Defence came with Geiger counters and all manner of equipment to test, and it made the papers, and they concluded that lightning had hit a gas pocket on the cliff tops. No lightning that week, no freak storms, but lightning had hit a gas pocket. What we didn't highlight in the 1960s was the fact that all around the United Kingdom, and we'll say 1967, and if I'm 63, then I apologise. 1967, all around the United Kingdom, these earth scoop anomalies were occurring in Lanarkshire, in Dufton Fell, lots and lots of them, and we'd not got the internet to spread the word, so the people involved didn't realise it were happening in all these different locations. Obviously, you're in Scotland, East Lothian. You're not going to know that this has happened in Flamborough. With internet, we'd know. But nobody knew then. And what's even more interesting, the astronomer, the prominent astronomer, Patrick Moore, was brought in by the Ministry of Defence to dispel the theory or the notion of little green men. It's really telling. And anybody that wants to look into this, there's lots now about it on internet, old historic reports that you can find. And Patrick Moore does an absolutely incredible job on crop circles. He actually does us all a favour, and he talks about the intricate nature formations of these spherical shapes that were found in the corn and found near to where these scoops of earth were being taken. But I found another one at Bempton. An old guy got in touch with me who used to work for an earth removal wagons and things. It were interesting because there's a prominent hill up there called Beacon Hill, and he worked for a particular company removing gravel from Beacon Hill. You wouldn't get away with it now. It's an earthwork. It's a burial mound, and he spent years and years removing gravel from Beacon Hill. But because he was in the area, he found another huge earth removal at the same time that the Hood crater was found, because it was called the Hood crater because it was at Hood Farm in Flamborough. It was a guy called, well, not say his name, but it was the farmer's son who found it. He went to cut hay in the morning, and when he came back for his dinner, the afternoon time, there's this section of earth that's been removed, and I think they thought it might have been an exploded bomb or something. They never heard anything. Why they contacted the authorities, I don't know, but the military came with the Geiger counters, which is pretty interesting back in them days, isn't it?
Yeah.
And,
Sure.
but there's a huge one. And myself and my wife, Mary, we went and measured it. We put a string line across it. I took a surveyor's tape. It was 63 foot across. And it was there to the day. I've wrote about it and put the pictures in I think it's in Truth Proof 3, with one of our daughters, Laura, stood in the middle of it. It was 10 foot deep then. Guess what? It's filled in. It's filled in. I'm not saying it's because of the book, but it's gone. It's stood all them years, and now it's gone. What's also interesting though about those craters in July, it was definitely July 17th, but I can't remember whether it was 63 or 67. But the following week, the Coast Guard station at Flamborough, very close to where the Hood crater were found, had a 5-hour observation of a UFO, documented in the Bridlington paper. That's where I found that information. And the Bridlington Free Press reporter came out, put binoculars on it, watched it. It was there for 5 hours. The Filey newspaper wrote about it. They called it the thing in the sky. It could be seen from Filey. And they commented on how it changed shape, and it looked like a bullet at one point. And then it looked like a triangle with a black triangle with a white line down it at other points. 5-hour observation. But that were less than 7 days after the craters were found. Yet the farmers at Hood Farm knew nothing about it. Nobody connected the two. Yeah. And I'm not saying there is a connection, but I think there's a strong possibility that they're connected. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah, and the Coast Guard station, is that the one that's now defunct in front of the golf course?
Defunct, yeah. It came up for sale, about 2 years ago, and I were interested in buying it. I ain't got loads of money, people, but I were interested in buying it. So I went and viewed it on auction day, and you have to, God knows how we got away with it, but they let us all in and looking around this old Coast Guard station, because goes over first, second and third floor, and then a viewing platform on the top.
Yeah.
And you go outside and you go up some ladders, and rusty old ladders that are moving on top. But basically all I'm saying is I got loads of photographs that day. I went up to have a look at it with a view to seeing how much it were going to go for at auction. And I took advantage and got loads and loads of photographs as well. Viewings are just amazing. But fire away, Les.
Yeah, and did it go for anything what you could afford it?
No, it went. Well, I'll not set price, but I thought it were going to go for under £100,000. I'll be honest with you, but it nearly made two.
Really? Yeah. And it from the fact that it was a Coast Guard station, makes it a great panoramic viewing area, doesn't it?
But it's tiny. It was tiny. They've done some incredible things with it. The people who've got it. If anybody's been to Flamborough and seen it on the road down to the lighthouse, now they've done a brilliant job on it.
Yeah, just on the left, innit? Where the golf course is. Right then, I'll move on with some questions then, Paul.
Go on then.
Let's have a look. Yorkshire Grey 73 is asking, are you aware of any repeating phenomena in South Yorkshire?
No, I'm not really, but I'm aware of phenomena in South Yorkshire actually being brought up in Mexborough and Old Dennerby and Edlington and Conisborough.
Yeah.
And, some of my first experiences and what I wrote about in Night People occurred in Old Dennerby. And the very first thing that I ever saw, and I'll not dwell on it because that's not your question, but the very first thing that I have a memory of in childhood is my dad waking me up.
Yeah.
And we lived in a council house in Old Denby. I think there were about 15 of them, and they overlooked pasture, and beyond that there were the railway lines and the River Don and then the canal, but there was the power station to the far right, Mexborough Power Station, and at the side of the cooling towers was a sphere of light. It's kind of lemony white colour. It looked like it was sparkling and turning.
Yeah.
And it was unusual because he woke me up to look at it. And he were always proud of these binoculars. My dad's brother, Andrew, he were a second officer in Navy, and he'd got him these super binoculars. And he's looking at them, and he's let me look at them. Oh, a little boy. And this thing just set off, and it looked like it was just above rooftops. There's no drones then. I mean, I think we'll probably be 1966, 67, and this thing's just travelling along rooftops. And we watched it. It were ever so slow, and you could see Swinton to your far left. So you got Mexborough bang in front of me. Yeah. And he left me, which were odd. There's no conspiracy there, people. But I don't know, he got 3/4 of the way across and he left me. And I can remember absolutely squinting, watching this thing just slowly travelling to distance. And so that's my first thing that I've ever seen, highly unusual. And since then, you know, luckily, I've reconnected with an old school friend because I wrote about some of these things in Night People, and I've got nobody to back me up for what I'm saying. And this guy remembers me talking about some of these things, well, lots of these things. And he's sort of also given me head a shake and woke me up to some other things that happened that I'd forgotten about, that didn't necessarily include me, or you know what I mean? But interesting.
So really, it begs the question, doesn't it? Really, if you know what is happening in that area now? I mean,
interesting area. I mean, we saw something again, Melton Wood, and I'm tipping whoever asked the question, and I apologise for forgetting who asked it, but I'm tipping you know the area when you say South Yorkshire, although it does encompass a good area, but primarily it was Mexborough for me, Old Denby, you know.
Yeah, good. Well, that was from Yorkshire, Graith 73. Okay, so, and thanks for the question. Delacartet is asking, Paul, have you ever been approached by the so-called Men in Black?
No, but Old Denby once again. My cousin, I'd not met him. You know, we all grow apart, don't we? Childhood. Me and my cousin. I'll not say her name because she's not even interested in subject, by the way. But we were childhood friends. Lived across the road from each other there, Old Denby, and we went into the woods at Old Denby. We weren't old enough to really be up there. We weren't teenagers or out, and I would, at the time, we thought it were a cliff face. It was probably a huge piece of sandstone that were flat, probably 6 or 7 foot tall. And we're only be 10 or 11 year old. We shouldn't have been there. And we're making little games and things. I don't know what we're doing up there, like pretending that there's elves and fairies. Sounds stupid now because we're going back lots of years, people, but I'm laying it online as it was. And I looked up, and there's a guy in a black suit, hat on, white face, looking at us, looking down at us. And I said to my cousin, I said, run. And we were about 30 foot from fence and 3-bar wooden fence and sloping field down to old Denby School where I used to go. And I got over that fence before she'd even known. And she looked up, and sure enough, she saw him. And it was the strangest thing. And you could see this guy like powder white, real odd, shiny shoes, black suit. And I'd not spoke to her. That's what I'm getting at. I'd not spoke to her for probably 30 years. And we had a bit of a family get-together a few years ago. It was first thing she said to me. Actual words were, do you remember running away and leaving me in Old Denby Woods when that strange man in the suit were looking down at us? And what that were, I don't know, people. It just could have been some quirky guy in a wood, in a suit and a hat. You know, with no proof of anything. It's just a strange one. But, yeah, she remembered it. But, there you go.
Things you see every day, Paul, I guess.
Tonight.
Yeah. Right then, so good question. And What's this question from me to both of you? Is that from Deborah? Yeah, I think so. If you could have full access, this is from Deborah, to any secret place in the world for a weekend, where would you like to go?
Secret place. We wouldn't know about it, Deborah. It'd be secret, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know? It's a good question, isn't it? Because I think it would have to be more than one place. There'd be so many places, and it's not necessarily moving around an old building or anything that's said to be haunted, although that could be quite exciting. But being able to be on certain areas of land that you wouldn't normally get access to, farmland where things happen. It doesn't have to be some big name place in the paranormal for me. I know there's places in UK that I'd like to spend some time that simply because the landowners wouldn't let you on them. You know.
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, to answer that question, Debbie, is we're surrounded, Paul is surrounded by a lot of military bases. Some are unused, some are used. Now, it's these used ones that I would probably like to have access to find out really what they're doing. And we know a lot of it is country defence, where there's like spying on actions of other countries. No doubt, that's primarily what they're doing in there. But yeah, I'd like to visit some of these where you can't, nobody's ever going to go, and even people on maintenance, you only get to certain aspects of these buildings, certain places, and they can't go anywhere else. Restricted access, they call it. But yeah, full access onto one of these military bases in Yorkshire.
It would be interesting, Les. Do you know, people say there's a ufologist or experiencer from UK, from Yorkshire, who said that he'd been given privileged access that nobody else can get to go to Fylingdales. Which weren't true. You can visit Fylingdales.
Oh, you can.
If you put in a request, I don't know whether you've got to be with some kind of club or organisation, and somebody might be able to correct me, because I'm not going to pretend I know, but I do know you can visit Fylingdales.
I think they have a small visitors place in there.
Yes, obviously you'd be restricted to what you could look at. They're not going to let you into most secretive places But in fact, it was only last night, jumping from it, that I got more information about some more tunnel systems around Bempton.
Interesting. That is very interesting.
Last night I got more information about that, and the guy who gave me the information was Steve Ashbridge.
Yeah, because I know. A few years ago, Paul, I know talking to somebody who you know very well, was telling me that they were talking to somebody. What was the psychic type person, and said there was lots of underground stuff under Bempton itself leading inland.
They did say that. And no disrespect to the psychic person that you're talking about. Yeah. They probably are good at what they do, but I'm more interested with me personally, with the actual witness that says, I've been in there. Yeah, this place does exist, and you go to that location.
What I'm kind of alluding to here is that we're talking of the same thing, but the people are coming from different aspects of it.
Yeah, different angle to it. Yeah,
that's good. Right then, shall we move on, Paul?
Yeah, let's move on.
What are we doing for time,
10
guys?
minutes.
We've got 10 minutes, are we? Probably again, and I'm sorry to say it, we've probably got more questions than time left, so I'll crack on. Right then, MKMD Exploration and Paranormal is asking, what are your thoughts on Stonehenge and its possible connections to UFOs? That's a good question. Have you got thoughts on that one, Paul?
It's Mike, isn't it, that's asking a question? Yeah. I don't know, Mike. Is Stonehenge just like any other place of historical significance where these things happen? I know that, and you'll know these places, I would think, MKM. I know that Duggleby Howe, the large burial mound, is kind of synonymous for UFO sightings and disc-type UFO sightings. That's just here in East Yorkshire. I know that the Rudston monolith, I'm not trying to avoid your question here, Mike, but I know that the Rudston monolith, people have experiences there. or say they do. I've never had one, but I know that people do, and there's UFO reports from around the Rudston monolith. So is it just these ancient earthworks hold that information? You know, it's a place where people have visited. It's a place where people have poured a lot of energies into over the years. Is it the fact that when you place a lot of emotion and a lot of energies into these things, and you think hard about these things, then you connect with that unknown other? It could be
yeah, that's.
You're giving that screen some funny looks, Les. What's surprising you?
No, just my thoughts on this. I'll just give my thoughts on this. Right, then Stonehenge. Now, Stonehenge is a lot to do with ley lines, is that right, Paul? And energy lines, connecting not places just in the UK, but around the globe. So it's been suggested that, like Stonehenge is in line with the pyramids and with some of these Mayan age-old cities. So there's a connection of lands like that. So I'm then thinking, if it is more to do with energy, then probably UFOs are at the heart of this, or seen UFOs, or balls of light is what Paul sees quite a lot of at Bempton. So yeah, I think it's all interconnected.
Okay. Has anybody thought about what Les said earlier? Because if you haven't, have you got an answer for it?
I got one up here, Paul. I don't know if Debbie's spotted anything.
So, we've got to say it, and I'm not dodging giving a number one book away. I still give it.
If Debbie could, if you can pick up on Debbie giving me the right answer for the person who's got the right answer.
Well, they'll have put the answer out now, so we ought to say it. Les was asking about earlier. He says he was going to ask about the fishing trips, weren't you, Les?
Yeah, it was just a pre-run to the show, yeah.
And he asked me about the fish and chips.
So
yeah. I said, I wish you'd have said that on live stream, Les. I said that would have been a classic.
Well, that creased you up, Paul, didn't it?
It did make me laugh a bit.
Yeah,
the fish and chips.
It lightened the mood, the fish and chips.
So that was the one. If anybody's got close to it, just contact Deb. Somebody did, I think, and we'll fire you a book across. And
yeah. Oh, I think I won it myself, Paul. I think I've got it myself. Right then, let's have a look then. 2052, we've still got a little bit more time. We're moving forward. I think we touched on this one, Jane Louise Bowery. Les and Paul, do you think UFOs choose who see them? We talked about this earlier, didn't we, Paul?
Yeah, but I think they do. Let's not call them UFOs. Let's just call it the intelligence that is behind whatever is presenting, because even with multi-witness accounts, they're seeing different things. I know it's all perception, but you know, if me, you, Les, and Jane, and Rick, and everyone else went outside and there were a fire engine, we'd know what it was. We'd know it was a fire engine. We wouldn't say, no, I think it was green, or I thought it was oval-shaped. Yet with a lot of the multi-witness accounts, they'll all agree that they've seen something highly unusual. Not all, that's a sweeping statement, apologies. But many times people will agree that they've seen something highly unusual outside of the norm, but they'll not agree on approximate shape or colours of the light, which is strange. You know, are we having some kind of individual experience? I don't know. Or is it just human perception of seeing this unexplained phenomena?
Yeah, I don't think I can add any more to that, Jen. But thanks for the question. Valiant Looney is asking, hi Paul and Les, what do you think of the fae, that's the fairies, theory to the missing 411 cases? Have you any opinion on that, Paul?
I don't know. I think I'm with the kind of principal researcher on this, which is David Paulides, and I think it'd be wrong to say what we might think or suspect is happening any more than I would think about any missing people that I've looked into. It's a great question, by the way, and there could be some validity to it. However, all we'd be doing is speculating and throwing things out there towards potential loved ones and family that maybe aren't necessary without real proof. I might have my suspicions what's happening in certain locations, but I don't think it's fair to say. You know, if we were talking of something that weren't as sensitive, I think then we can kind of throw your theory into the ring. All I will say about the people that I've looked into is that I haven't a clue if it's connected to the UFO phenomena or any other type of phenomena. All I know is that these people have gone missing in a place where other highly unusual things occur. But at the end of the day, we've got to understand it's a tragedy. That's first and foremost in my mind is the people that are left behind. They've got to live with it, and they might not want somebody's wild theory attaching to it. That's
Yeah, sure, yeah. That's it. Yeah, it's always going to be a delicate subject, that one, Paul.
We've been a little bit more delicate tonight, people, because we did receive a little bit of a warning for last week's show, and nobody swore, nobody did anything untoward, but that we knew. But we must have touched on something sensitive.
Lee Roscoe is asking, hello, Paul and Les. Do you think the untoward things happening to animals, I'll put it that way, are something to do with the weather?
No, I don't, Lee. But having said that, I kind of lean to where you're going, because a lot of times we do have adverse weather conditions before certain things happen. So yeah, I know what you mean. And so, is the weather a contributing factor, or is the weather and the conditions of the atmosphere allowing these things to happen? I don't know.
Yeah, and
I wish I could say something more, people, than I don't know.
Yeah. And Lee, I can't add anything to that whatsoever, because Paul's done all the research on that, and
he don't know.
And he doesn't know, so there's I don't have an opinion or any facts or figures to do with any weather situation and whatever's gone wrong with these animals. Okay, Tim Brennan. Les, Mel has near-death out-of-body experiences. Tim, maybe that's something we can develop for another show, if that's okay with you and Mel.
I think so, and anybody who knows Tim from a previous live stream, we'd love to have Tim on again as a guest, and I suggested it a few weeks ago because he's written an incredible book, or a really good book, should I say, The Museum of Angels. And I want Tim to talk us through that. So anybody who wants to put their hand up and say, yeah, we'd like to hear that, let's get Tim back on. And we can probably touch on the OBEs as well.
Yes. Okay. 2057, we've got a couple more questions we'll probably get in. Question for Paul, any chance of getting Maria Wheatley on as a guest? So that's a guest request.
Every chance, and if you have got any connections to this person, I'll reach out and to Maria Wheatley and say that you've been suggested as a guest, and see whether we can get her on. Yeah. But anybody that knows the lady, put her in touch. Yeah, let's do this, because I say that's my biggest problem at the moment. That's the hurdle I'm crossing. I literally have not had a chance to do anything today related to anything that I look into because of other people's things that I've been helping them with. That's life, guys. I know everybody's got it to do.
Yeah. And thanks for the question, Bridget. And Tino, it's probably the last question for tonight's live stream, and thanks for all the questions. And I'm sorry I didn't get through them all. Paul, were some of the Earth removals oblong in shape?
No, most of it. No, it was spherical or slightly oval, should we say? I think the Hood crater was oval. It weren't a perfect circle, but the one at Bempton was a perfect circle. But research it. I do apologise that I ain't got the 63 or 67. I'm leaning towards it's June, July 67.
Yeah. And
all over UK, it's there to find. It's such an interesting. Just because it's historic does not mean it's not interesting. It's absolutely fascinating. That's really worth looking into. So yeah. Yeah,
and on that note, we have finished tonight's show. Thanks to everybody who's come into the chat, everybody who's come onto the live stream, and don't forget, like, share, and all that business, blah blah.
And so many names that I'd love to say thank you for supporting us tonight. I seen Della Carter in there, Stephen, and I start typing them, guys. And then I realise I can't finish it all, and then I feel guilty for not doing it. So thank you.
Yeah. And just going to reiterate what Paul says there. Next, yeah, there will be a show next week with a good following wind, and I guess we'll see you all then. So thanks everybody for going on to tonight's live stream, and I'll leave the last word to Paul.
No, the last word is thank you very much. It's been great, and questions have been fascinating, and it makes me realise that we should do this again. Thank you.
Okay, and thanks, and good night, everybody. Good night.